Good morning, guys. This is Saturday morning, a beautiful morning for us, and another weekend. And hope you guys are well. We're all doing good, and just good to be with you guys again. And we'll just continue on with this way of communication until further notice, I guess. But it's pretty much a routine way of life anymore, isn't it? So we'll just continue on, and it's good that we have these avenues to be able to keep in contact with each other. But anyway, today's lesson is, we're still in the book of Proverbs, and today's lesson is called Staying Sober. A very important lesson, and there's instructions in here. A continuation of instructions by Solomon, and very, very important and vital. And it has, unfortunately, affected a lot of individuals and a lot of families. But we'll talk about this in a few minutes. But first of all, we want to go to the Lord in prayer request, and I'll always pray for the class and each one of you guys and your families, and pray for our church and the church staff and all the shut-ins and all those people going through difficult times, lost loved ones, just a lot of different things going on with people, and people hurting in our church. We also want to be mindful of those, and just thank God that, but for God's grace, we could be one of these people that are laying flat of our back somewhere, or having difficult situations and stuff and all. But let's just remember all these people, and remember each other. We'll have a word of prayer, then we'll get started. Father, thank you for this day, for all your many blessings. Bless this class, each man represented. And I pray, Father, that you just minister to their needs. If they're hurting, going through difficult times, discouraged, that you'll just lift them up and put your hand of peace on them, Father, and just give them peace that passeth all understanding, Father, and help them to feel better if they're not feeling well, and if there's upcoming decisions in their lives, I pray that you'll just lead and guide, direct them, and help them to use your wisdom, Father, to make those decisions that may have to be made. Father, just be with our church staff, continue to strengthen and encourage them during these times. And that you be with our shut-ins, those that are hurting in hospitals or nursing homes, Father, that you'll be with them and encourage them, encourage their families, Father, all the caregivers and all, Father, that you'll encourage and strengthen them. Be with all of our healthcare workers, and that you'll continue to bless and keep them safe. Be with our country, and just help the leaders to continue to make decisions that will be in accordance to your will. Be with the storms that seem to be coming our way, that you'll just form a protection for us, Father, and keep us safe from the weather and all, and because we know you're in control. Just be with our friends and all, Father, going through difficult times, that you minister to their needs. And I pray through all of this, people to just draw closer to you, Father. Thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for your grace and your mercy. Thank you for the truths in your word, and that we can just freely talk about them, Father, and discuss them. And just give us all a good day. And through your word, I pray that we'll just be encouraged. In your name I pray. Amen. Okay, guys. Like I said, we're talking about staying sober. And God expects believers to be good stewards of the bodies he has given them. And that's from Proverbs chapter 23, verses 17 to 21 and 29 to 35. And these verses, guys, are pretty much self-explanatory. It doesn't take to understand these. They're pretty much simple and common every day. Not hard to figure out what's being talked about here. But I want to go ahead and read them, and then we can discuss them, because there's a lot of discussion that can be made over this subject. Verse 17, don't let your heart envy sinners. Instead, always fear the Lord, for then you will have a future, and your hope will not be dashed. Listen, my son, and be wise. Keep your mind on the right course. Don't associate with those who drink too much wine, or with those who gorge themselves on meat. For the drunkard and the glutton will become poor, and grogginess will clothe them in rags. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has conflicts? Who has complaints? Who has wounds for no reason? Who has red eyes? Those who linger over wine, those who go looking for mixed wine. Don't gaze at wine because it is red, because it gleams in the cup and goes down smoothly. In the end, it bites like a snake and stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and you will say absurd things. You'll be like someone sleeping out at sea or lying down on the top of a ship's mast. They struck me, but I feel no pain. They beat me, but I didn't know it. When will I wake up? I'll look for another drink. Okay, guys, this is an issue that's always been an issue, I feel like, since the beginning of time. And it's pretty much it's a way of life. And I want to be careful not to get my own opinion all wound up in this, but I'm just going to try to stay by what the lesson here says. And there's a lot of very pertinent and valuable information here in this lesson. But there's just a lot of things you can say about this. But alcohol and drug abuse, it's just been a part of life, even now, so more so than ever. It seems like, it's just a way of life, and we're hearing about the consequences of that lifestyle, and it's not good, and we know that. And if it hasn't touched our family, we probably have friends that it's touched, but it really has. We talked about consequences of our actions in the past, of different things, and all that we were talking about previous lessons. But the consequences of these two areas, it really can be devastating, can it? And I know that we all, if it hasn't affected us, I know that we know people that it has affected. And the consequences are very severe. It's just unfortunate, but we all are accountable. We've talked about that. There's consequences for our actions, no matter how old or young you are. It doesn't matter. And so for those that choose to go down this road, it says here, lives have been destroyed, marriages ruined, families wounded, and communities disrupted because of the destructive influence of these two areas. And some of us worry that our children or grandchildren will be caught up in its grip. But my thinking on that, and I'll just interject my opinion here. When our children were growing up, and I'm not an authority on this, and everybody's different, and what works for one may not work for the other. But when our children were growing up, we stayed in their business. They lived under our roof. We made them accountable. We just stayed in their business. We knew what was going on. We knew who they were hanging around. We knew where they were going, what they were doing. We gave them a curfew. And a lot of times we had their friends and all, they'd always come over to the house. We enjoyed having them. Well, we knew what they were doing, who they were with. And besides that, they were at our house. So we knew what was going on. And they always enjoyed that. We didn't. We just let them, watch movies and eat popcorn or whatever. And, we didn't hover over them. We didn't mind them being there. We let them have their freedom right there. But we always made our children accountable. Even when they got up out of high school. I know Krista was going out of town to school. We knew when she left, we knew about how long it took her to get wherever she was going. She was to call us when she got there. And she always did. And then when she left there, after she got out of school, if she was working, she said, I'm leaving. So we knew how long it took her to get home, and she was there. She was always home about that time. And if it didn't, we got on the phone and asked where she was. So we always made them accountable. And I think that goes a long way with, keeping them on that straight and narrow. Because there, guys, we know that, I mean, there's a lot of things out there grabbing us. The devil just works, all over the spectrum, and he does, and he'll use, any avenue he can. He'll use your children, but you stay in your children's business. Their business is your business. If you're raising your children, and you can't just let them get out there and run around, run ragged. We don't know what's going on, but we always like to know who they're hanging around, and who are they with, and stuff. So it seemed to work for us, but like I said, it may not for everybody, but that's what we did with our children, and they turned out, we feel like, okay. But wisdom, Solomon was talking about his counsel, and there's 4 things he was talking about concerning God's wisdom, which he's been talking about. First, the wisdom of God revealed in his word. It covered a lot of issues. He didn't leave any. It says here, and I was going to say this, Solomon left no stone unturned in giving wise instruction to God's people about all the issues of life. And there's a lot of them, as we know. The wisdom of God is soul searching. It's personal and spiritual, isn't it? I mean, he wasn't, Solomon, wasn't worried about what was on the surface. He was worried about the heart. We had mentioned that in the past. That's where it starts. His counsel is also, for a third, it's intensely practical. I mean, it's not something mind-boggling or takes a scientist to figure out. It's just practical everyday living, isn't it? This wisdom, this godly wisdom. It's not anything that you have to, it's just very, 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 very practical. Solomon's counsel is relational, in that he desired relationships with God to grow deeper and more mature, as well as relationship with each other. But verse 17 starts off with the promise, and it comes back to, and we mentioned this word last week, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. We have in the past. Those who fear the Lord and trust in him can count on a secure and hopeful future. If you respect and reverence the Lord and believe in him, that right there, it says it right there. You can count on, if you trust in him and fear him, you can count on a secure and hopeful future. And Solomon gave 2 pieces of wise counsel. The fear and reverent awe of the Lord, that is the basis of wisdom. There you go, guys. I mean, that's the basis of wisdom. The fear and the reverence awe of the Lord. And Solomon also said, another point was, he directed God's people to stay grounded in loving and fearing the Lord. Just always stay focused, stay on course. Don't let yourself get distracted or lose your focus. The promise of God's present assures a future hope. Walking in God's wisdom keeps alive the promise of a future with purpose and hope. That's the key, fellas. You grab a hold of God's wisdom and you keep it, and you don't let go. I don't care what comes across, what comes along your way. It doesn't matter. But in verses 19 to 21, he talks about the mind. And what you think when it comes, how and what you think when it comes to a critical situation in life. It makes all the difference in the world, the decisions you make. And we all have made decisions. We'll continue to have to make decisions. You use that godly wisdom, the discernment, when you're making those decisions, A sound mind filled with the wisdom of God will be better able to make the right choices. And that's true. We know that. A sound mind, and avoid the bad choices that can derail us. And of course, there's things out there that will derail us, isn't there, if we let them. And of course, alcohol, substance abuse are 2 of those big items that can derail us if we if we let it, if we're not strong enough in God's wisdom and in his word. But I mean, Solomon petitioned the people, God's people, to not associate with those who drink too much wine or with those who gorge themselves on meat. Those things can numb us to difficulties and pains of life. And they can. I kind of think of, like when you go to the dentist, well, they shoot you up, they're going to pull some teeth or filling or whatever the situation. What do? They give you some Novocaine. What does that do? It kind of numbs you, doesn't it? It numbs your whole face and your mouth. And that's what this stuff will do to you. It'll just numb you, and you can't stay focused. You can't. You're not in your right mind, are you? But that's the kind of stuff we need to avoid. God's people are to trust God in difficult times. No, and don't turn to these things for comfort, in the process. When the and times will get difficult. They have, and they will continue. I mean, we're in difficult times right now. But that doesn't mean we're supposed to just throw our hands up in the air, does it? And just go to start drinking or popping pills or whatever the situation may be. That's not the answer. That's a short term, that's just going to create more problems. It says here, the problem's not going to go away. When the effects of self-medication and gluttony are gone, are the problems gone? No, they're not gone. They're still right where they were, But I'm going to mention these, but listed on page 86 in your book is what the Bible says about gluttony and alcohol. And there's about 7 or 8 in the Bible sections that talks about this and the effects of it and what it'll do to you. But Solomon, he just flat told you, he said, well, if you want to, you can. No, he just told you, It says his counsel was simple. Disassociate yourself from the abuse of alcohol. It opens up the individual to all kinds of harm. It causes a person to become entangled in that lifestyle. That is really would just tear down your life. And we tend to abhor drunkenness, but we don't usually have the same attitude about gluttony. But shoving food in your mouth, it does leave you groggy, and you can't, you're not able to be productive when you work. But, it ends up, as a result of that, you'll end up wearing rags, as the book says, as a result of your lack of control in those areas. But God's wisdom at work prompts us to treat both alcohol abuse and gluttony, in the same way. Instead of giving in to them, we handle our difficult trials by trusting the Lord to help us get through the challenges of life. Did you hear that, fellas? Don't give in to these temptations and stuff of abuse and gluttony. Trust the Lord when you have the valleys in your life, because we're not always going to be on the mountaintop, are we? I mean, those times are good when we have them, but it doesn't take but one incident, 1 second, and things can change, and that's happened in people's lives, haven't it? Things have just changed in a matter of seconds. That has just, a life-changing, altering type situations, and they can happen. But for the grace of God, there go I. So let's don't ever think that we've arrived and we're too good to. But during our difficult times, we always need to continue to trust in the Lord no matter what. And don't resort to these other things that are out there and just everywhere, for the grab and think they're going to just solve all of our problems, because they're not going to do anything but make more problems, are they? The consequences of these 2 subjects, the alcohol abuse and gluttony, physical, mental, financial, relational, and spiritual. It covers a lot of areas, doesn't it, guys? That's the scary part. God's people need to stay sharp, focused, and fully engaged in life, living within the guidelines and boundaries of God's wisdom. And that's, Solomon was begging people, petitioning people to demonstrate wisdom and accountability in these two areas. But, alcohol and the enticements of it really appeals to people. And they think of all the answers. But in reality, it's not all the answers, is it? But it just makes more problems is what it does. But at the end of the day, it says in the end, it bites like a snake. It looks good on the front end, but, it says the ramifications of alcohol abuse are horrible. It's the consequences of alcohol abuse are many and varied. The loss of reason, abusive and belligerent behavior, and even open demonstration of physical signs of alcohol abuse. Alcohol overpromises and under-delivers. I like that. That's very true, isn't it? And of course, the media, advertisement, it's just a money-making racket. Is what it amounts to me. And maybe the way you feel. The consumption, advertisement everywhere, the billboards, TV, bars, papers, stores, it's everywhere. Restaurants, alcohol. It's a drawing card for people. And but it's what this one, and this is the truth. This sentence here, what is missing is the downside of the alcohol industry. And that's the truth, isn't it? All you hear about is the glamour and the glitz and this, let's go have a drink, let's do this, let's go party, let's go do this, and let's go do that. But there is a downside, there's a backside. The ravaging effects of alcohol and other addictive substances, individuals and families. And there has been consequences. There has been that. And it's sad and unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. And that's what's going to happen. And we know that. And that's not the answer, is not in the bottle. And so let's do what we know we should do as far as, the answer when the times get hard, and they will. But it does say that people who abuse alcohol lose their mental capacities and ability to demonstrate self-control. And you start going in that, the depressive follow for you, is just the next drink. And Solomon's description in these verses of alcohol's effects challenges us to give the control of our bodies to the Lord alone. And that's who you need to give it to. There's a lot of so-called answers. Everybody has the answers, don't they, to everything. But they don't. They think they do. And people get caught up in that. But at the end of the day, you need to, the Lord is right there. He hasn't moved. We've all moved. We can't stay still, can we? We always have to be moving around, trying to find whatever it is we're trying to find. But the Lord is right there. He never has moved, has he? He's always right there and available for us. But the problem, I was going to go ahead and read this, but I don't want to paraphrase it. The problem of alcohol and drug abuse has been underscored for believers. And of course, we know that the addictive behaviors and consequences of alcohol and substance abuse can be devastating. And we know that. We know the effects and what it's done to maybe family, friends, or either family or friends of ours. We all know somebody, because some way or another, directly or indirectly, we've come in contact with people that's been affected by these two areas. Solomon's description in the verses of alcohol's effects challenges us to give the control of our bodies to the Lord alone. Control of our bodies to the Lord alone. And let's always be mindful of that, fellas. The control of our bodies. We didn't, God created us, and we're to take care of. We're not to abuse our body with these kinds of things. And of course, the one not to, just don't ever take that step. Don't ever take the first one, the first smoke, the first drink. And be discerning in the people you hang around, where you go. Those things all enter into this, don't they? Let's go party. Listen, we can have a party. We can have a party at church. Our group can have a party. And we just get high on life, can't we? We can get high on the Lord. We can get high on His Word. We can just, with each other. And never has to be a drink unless it's a drink of iced tea, which, I I can drink that, all day long. Water, iced tea, sweet tea. I mean, I have my vices, and that's one of them is sweet tea. And of course, as hot as it is, water is probably about the best thing to. But we can get high on the Lord and high on life, and at a party or whatever, without the consumption of alcohol or any of that kind of stuff. But the media and the world has got it to where you can't even go to a restaurant hardly anymore where there's not a bar. You can't go to a store where they don't have a section of that stuff. And, it's just unfortunate, but that's where we are. But we still have to be strong enough. You see it, but you don't see it. We have to be strong enough. And we have to make, those decisions and those discernment we have talked about many times. Be discerning about where you go, who you hang out with, and things like that. You got to make those wise, smart, godly decisions, don't we? And that's where, the wisdom comes in, God's wisdom, godly wisdom to make those decisions that would, be like those bracelets, WWJD. What would Jesus do? Well, what would Jesus do? So we make those decisions, we have to be mindful of what he would do. Not what other people think of us, or they don't think we're strange, different, or whatever. Well, let them think that. You just be strong enough to make those decisions that will be God-pleasing, that be God-fearing, and because we love the Lord and for what he did for us, that we can make those decisions that he would just be so proud of us and would bless us for it. Because if we live for him, guys, we've talked about this before, making godly decisions about things and using godly wisdom. What door does that open up? That opens up the door of blessings. And we've all been blessed. We're blessed just to even be here today. But we've all been blessed. And we never, we can't. God's grace and mercy and his blessings are just, it's kind of just leaves you speechless sometimes as things he's kept us safe from, in harm's way and stuff. But there's just a lot of, we could discuss about this. But I think, guys, using that godly wisdom, using that discernment, using that mental state, that positive, clear mind to make those decisions, that won't put you in the position of these and get you around this kind of stuff, because it's gonna hurt feelings. You're gonna have to separate yourself, maybe from close friends that go this route. What we can do is pray for them and let them know that you don't approve of this, but you still love them and you'll pray for them. Now, guys, it's really been good. And the time just seems like it just flies by. But this is some very important subject this week, and I pray that hopefully something was said in God's word, and maybe something I may have mentioned that might be an encouragement to you about this. But this is just very important. So just keep on keeping on, keep on that narrow path, and it's good to be with you guys again. I hope, like I said before, that you guys are doing well, and take care of yourselves, and we'll be talking to you real soon, and we'll see you then. Take care, guys. Bye now.